All right, I want to go across to our first big newsmaker tonight. Ambassador Naor Gilon is Israel's ambassador to India. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for speaking with us. And first of all, our thoughts and prayers, our sympathies with the families of the victims of the dastardly attacks that we saw on Saturday. Can you first tell us what is the situation on the ground as it exists today? Are all Israeli citizens safe? Are they all accounted for? Are there still hostages? If so, how many? What is your best understanding of what is the ground situation right now?
Good evening, Zaka, and thank you very much for your warm words. If I can go a little bit to Saturday morning, one of the most holiest Jewish holidays, very early in the morning where people are, Saturday also, people are sleeping in their beds. There was a dual attack perpetrated by the terror organization Hamas from Gaza. They started bombarding with rockets and missiles all along the communities, Jewish communities around the Gaza Strip. And in parallel, close to 1,000 terrorists from Gaza infiltrated more than 30 Jewish communities. And unfortunately, the number of the horror there is incredible, the atrocities, ISIS type of behavior. They killed women, children, elderly, almost 1,000 people. They kidnapped another close to 150, close to 3,000 wounded. Among the dead, more than 250 youngsters who were in an open party music festival, carnival, not far from Gaza. They just butchered them and shot them. And that's it, more or less, the situation. It took us close to 24 hours to regain control of everything, to go from house to house, to look for hunt the terrorists, save some of the hostages that were still there. So far, they have shot at Israel more than 5,000 rockets and missiles. And Israel is, at this stage, retaliating very strongly for the time being through our Air Force. But we are preparing also big ground forces around Gaza.
Ambassador, we know that the prime ministers, both of Israel and India, have spoken via telephone. Can you tell us a little bit more about what went on in that conversation between Prime Minister Netanyahu and Prime Minister Modi, and also your views on the kind of support you've seen from the Indian government, the unequivocal support from the Prime Minister? He tweeted within the first few hours of the attack on Saturday itself. The support you've seen from the Indian people since the attack Saturday, could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yes, Prime Minister Modi ji was very early among the first leaders in the world to show condolences and support to Israel. Already in the Saturday afternoon, where the figures of the disaster were not even known to the fullest at the time, and the amount of support we got here at all levels, ministers, politicians, high-level civil servants, very important businessmen, the people, the common Indian from the street, the number of support messages and asking to come and volunteer that we get on the social media is unprecedented. I mean, Israel is trending here in social media since Saturday morning, and support to Israel and everything. I in my total long career, never, in a few countries, never saw something like that. Really, really incredible. And today, I think that Prime Minister Netanyahu wanted to update Prime Minister Modi about the situation and our thinking to the future and how we see the situation. But I think it's better be kept, the details, to the meeting itself, because we don't want to expose any of our intentions for the coming weeks.
I also want to know your thoughts. Clearly, Israel has the right to defend itself. It is taking actions as it deems fit to secure its citizens. There are, however, concerns that people are raising about the complete seizure of Gaza. There's no food going in. There's no electricity. Water supplies have been shut off. how is Israel going to distinguish between Hamas operatives and Hamas leadership and civilians who may be bearing the brunt of Israel's response to this crisis?
Yes, well, I think that terror organizations, there is only one way to stop them, and this is to eliminate them or their abilities to attack you, and that's what we have to do. The magnitude of this attack on Israel now is unprecedented, and I'm saying there are atrocities and pictures there that are, we know them only from ISIS. The cruelty, taking women of 85, 90 years old and children of less than 1 year old in captivity to Gaza, and things are terrible. And now we have to make sure that Hamas is unable to repeat that again in the future, and that's what we are going to do. From past experience, there are a few elements that we already know. Hamas, after starting these atrocities, they will now become the victims. That's the way, in order to protect themselves and have countries, say, "Oh, please come and save us now." This is one element that it's always there. So the perpetrator becomes the victim in 10 seconds in order to protect himself. And the other thing is that in the past, they used their own population as human shields. So they used to shoot outside of their civilian population, by the way, hoping that we will hit civilian population and there will be international pressure on us to stop. We are not going to stop. We do the utmost not to hurt civilian population. This time it's even more complicated because they have around 150 hostages. By the way, many of the dead and the hostages are foreign nationals. Not all of them are Israelis. Among the dead, there are quite a few Thai and Nepalese and Filipinos and people from the US citizens that are missing and the European citizens. So it's a very complex thing. And they already threatened to execute the hostages. So it's going to be very complicated. We do our utmost to differentiate between terrorist and civilian population, but it's very hard when the opponent is doing intentionally shooting out of hospitals, having their headquarters on the hospitals, schools, mosques, hoping that we will hit them and be under international pressure to stop.
Ambassador, have you found any leads or indications of the role of outside elements, whether it is Hezbollah or its backers, Iran? And if you have, what may that mean? Are we now looking at Israel taking action not just against Hamas, but also its backers like Hezbollah and the Iranian regime? And does that mean that we're now drawing ourselves into a much wider regional conflict in the Middle East?
So, the intelligence was not that good. That's one of the things we'll have to look into afterwards. So I'm not sure that at this stage we can make a direct link either to Iran or to Hezbollah, although in open sources they met quite a few times in Lebanon, in other places, and this is known. But what is very clear is the fact that Iran, for a very long time, is helping Hamas arm, giving them technologies and knowledge and training their people. And we can see what Hezbollah in the north, which is a proxy of Iran, is doing to heat the border. Yesterday there were 5 infiltrations attempts on infiltration into Israel. They were exchanged. We were able to kill most of the people. We also lost an officer. So these countries, Iran is clearly involved in destabilizing the area. To your question of whether we will go after other countries, I will just remind everyone that after the horrific massacre of the Israeli athletes in Munich in 1972,
yes,
Israel, the government, the Prime Minister, then Golda Meir, took a decision to find each and every one of them and bring them to justice. And sometimes justice was meeting a bullet this might be justice too, but I think that Israel has this DNA of going after the people wherever they are, not giving them any possibility to hide, and we are very persistent about it. Terrorists must be stopped, one way or another.
I also want to know from you, Ambassador, if you have an update on the status of Indian citizens who are living and working in Israel. There are more than 15,000 of them. I believe a lot of them are in IT. Some of them are in the medical field. Would you have an update on if all of them are safe and have been accounted for?
So we don't have the full figures so far. We don't know of any Indians who were killed or hijacked into Gaza. There is a likelihood that one person was injured, but this is we are looking into this thing. But thanks God so far, and I hope it stays like that. No Indian casualties in this terrible event.
Ambassador, is there anything more that you're looking by way of support from India or even from the wider international community? This is clearly one of the most challenging times for you, your country, your people that we've seen in recent times. What more are your expectations, either from India or from the wider global community?
Yes, Zaka, I will tell you that I think that the biggest support that we can get from the world today is the support and understanding of the need to fight terror to the fullest. I think this is very, very important. I'm sure that you follow that the Americans have sent a carrier fleet into the Mediterranean, sending the message to Iran and its proxies, especially Hezbollah, not to interfere in this event. We don't want anyone to fight for us. We never asked anyone to fight or spill blood for us. We always knew that the only way to survive is to do it by yourself. I'm sure that if the war will get longer and complicated, Israel will need probably refilling of its arms and ammunitions, but this is not here yet. And I think that the American support is really amazing, always have been, but this time also very much amazing. And I'm sure that also India is on the side of Israel and for anything that we would need.
Ambassador, one of the recent features in the Middle East was Israel's normalization of its ties with its Arab neighbors, whether it was with the UAE, with Bahrain. We saw the Abraham Accords. And in recent weeks, there was a lot of talk about normalization of ties between Saudi Arabia and Israel. So what happens to that now?
So first of all, I think that the Middle East today, or West Asia as you would call it, is a different place than it was 3 years ago before the Abraham Accords. Because the Abraham Accords is a game changer. It started with UAE and Bahrain, and then Morocco and Sudan joined. And this is building a new future for the region. And yes, there are talk, and we did the I2U2, which is the business side of this, and we are speaking now of adding Saudi Arabia and doing also a corridor from India through the Gulf, Saudi Arabia, into Israel and the Mediterranean. So we do, with the countries with goodwill who are trying to improve the lives of their citizens are working together in order to make it a better place. Of course, countries who are against that, and are quite many, Iran is one of them, but Iran is not the only one, they have a good incentive, and they are hoping that what happened now with Hamas, this terrible attack, will lead to Saudi Arabia pulling away. I think, by the way, that these extremists, Islamic extremists, political Islamic extremists, are dangerous for all the moderate regimes in the Middle East, be it in the Gulf, be it in Saudi Arabia, be it in Egypt and our neighborhood, Jordan, wherever it is. I think these are the enemies of stability and prosperity. So if we are going to hit these people who, unprovokedly attacked us in a very, very, very vicious manner, it's going to serve the purpose of the moderates, I think, in the Middle East. I hope that Saudi Arabia will see it this way and will continue with this very important way of getting closer to Israel and changing the Middle East even more. Saudi Arabia is a very important country in the region, very big, very influential, and I would hope that they will join the camp of the moderate countries together with India, which is working with us, and make our world a better place and our region a better place.
And one final question, Ambassador, before I wrap up. What's going to be the end objective for Israel, and how do you come to that assessment? You have launched a massive counter-operation. There are airstrikes. There's huge mobilization of ground troops. Of course, your objective is to try and neutralize Hamas to the point where it cannot launch any more attacks on Israeli citizens. But how and when do you come to that assessment, to that conclusion?
So, I mean, Israel, for the time being, we haven't declared the end game. Clearly, we said, and we mean it, that we want to make sure that we neutralize Hamas's ability to attack again and to do the same horrors. So, how it will be executed, this we leave to the imagination of Hamas, because I don't want them to be too comfortable in guessing or knowing what we are going to do. So, our final aim is to make sure that what happened now will never happen, not to Israel, not to others, that Hamas will not have this capacity. And this will be the end goal. How it will be achieved, we leave it to the imagination and the fears of our adversaries.
All right, Ambassador Naor Gilon, thank you very much. And once again, our thoughts, prayers and sympathies with the families of victims who were killed in Saturday's attacks. Thank you for speaking with us.